Hey everyone, today I will be talking about the game Deep Strange Journey Redux. Uh, well, I guess that's what they call it, Redux, Redo. So this is a new version of Strange Journey, a game that came out on the Nintendo DS back in 2010, I believe. And what happened was they remade the game with improved graphics and visuals for the 3DS, like released just on May 15th of this year, 2018. And I'm going to be giving you my impressions of the game, and I'm going to give you my opinion on whether or not you should buy it, if you should, I don't think you can even rent these kinds of portable games. But I'll give you my thoughts on it. And I'll give you my thoughts as someone who has played both the original and the new version. But I mean, this review will be applicable to you if you just care about the new version. Like, let's say you play it completely new, that's fine, you can listen to this review. This review will be completely spoiler free as well. None of the scenes shown here will have any spoilers. Most of the scenes used will be from early on in the game. So, Deep Strange Journey is a SMT game, Shin Megami Tensei. Now these games, they're kind of weird games if you don't know. They're the kind of monster-raising games. Now, with these monster-raising genre, the most popular game in that kind of genre is Pokemon, but not many other people know that there were other kinds of these games as well, but they usually don't have that much popularity. Games like Yokai Watch, for example, that's not very popular in North America, unfortunately. But there's other games too, like SMT is an example, and what you do is you recruit these demons and angels, and you get them to fight for you. And SMT games are usually characterized by alignments. They're not the same as the Dungeons and Dragons alignment, but kind of similar. What you do is you have lawful and chaotic choices that you can make, and basically the decisions that you say during the story cutscenes, they will determine what kind of ending you'll get. You might get some unique bosses like close to the end of the game. After a certain point of the game, there will be a point of no return. No spoilers, of course, but basically you have the chaotic route, a lawful route, and a neutral route. And I mean, it's kind of tough to tell. Like, you can try to guess your way, but sometimes it's not obvious. Like, sometimes the chaotic responses to questions of the characters, they're not really obvious. So sometimes you might want to look up a guide that just has that information on what you should choose, so you can guarantee you get the route that you want. So I know that SMT is not as unpopular as it used to be. SMT Nocturne was a big one back in the PS2 days, and it was there's lots of spin-off games, and Deep Strange Journey is another one of these SMT spin-off games. But the SMT franchise hasn't really had much popularity until now. It gained a resurgence in popularity when SMT4 was released on the 3DS, but a lot of people found the game unfair and rather hard. And the game was hard with the first and second bosses, usually, and usually those bosses, once you beat those bosses, you'll get through the rest of the game pretty easily. But with this game, Deep Strange Journey, it's like an SMT kind of game, so it's a weird kind of game. You recruit demons and angels, so if you're sensitive to this kind of stuff, this might not be the game for you. The graphics can be sometimes really, really nasty, with the demons taking really, nasty kind of shapes and forms. Sometimes it's really violent, sometimes it's really sexual, so the thing is, it's not actually cutscenes that are sexual and violent. They're just sprites and some 2D portraits of the demons that you recruit. So this game is what you would call a dungeon crawler, but people even call Persona 3 a dungeon crawler, but this is a real dungeon crawler. This game is like EO, Etrian Odyssey. Etrian Odyssey. So that franchise, it's like this. It's comparable. It's like a 2D dungeon crawler where you just have some enemy sprites, and you have your own 2D sprites, and you control these, your characters to defeat the enemies, and you have to go through these mazes. And SMT is no exception. Strange Journey, though this new version, what happens is this new version has a lot of quality of life improvements. So there's a lot of optional stuff that you can do, but you can get these kind of apps. So basically you use a demon summoning app to recruit demons. You'll see if you play the game. It's like just a regular menu. They just call it apps. But with these apps, you can kind of unlock these sub-apps that will help you make the game a little bit easier. And now there's no restrictions, and they've even added more apps to make the game even more and more easy. So there was one app where, for example, in SMT games, you'll lose you'll get game over if your main character dies, even if you have other demons that's still alive. There is a sub-app that you can purchase that will undo this. It'll let you still continue the battle even if your main character has fallen unconscious. So, you know, this new version of the game has a lot of those quality of life improvements. In terms of the graphics, like, the gameplay is not really changed. There's an optional dungeon, and you can do this anytime you want. You can even save it for the end of the game as well. And what this game actually does is it has 3 original sets of endings. I'm hoping that the quantity of endings is not a spoiler for you guys. You have 3 original endings and 3 new endings, and basically the new endings extend past the original ending, but you have to complete the optional dungeon first. But let me go back to my old point. I was talking about how this game was a dungeon crawler. So what happens is this game's it has like these mazes that you need to explore, and you have to, you know, it's kind of like SMT4 is a really good example. It's kind of like that, but it's even more, this game is a little bit more archaic and unfriendly. Yes, this game has a lot of quality of life improvements, but unfortunately, like, these games, the dungeons contained within this game, and it has been left unchanged. They've only added an additional optional dungeon at the end. But in terms of the regular dungeons that they've all kept in, that you have to go through to progress through the story, they're hell. I've never seen, like, I haven't been playing games since the 80s, no. Maybe since the mid-90s onwards, I've been playing games, and I have not seen, like, dungeons that are so difficult, so grueling, as in this game. Now, what I'm gonna say is that, yeah, if you've played this game before, maybe you can handle that, you know, and you can have an optional dungeon. I would not buy this game again just for the optional dungeon and the new endings. I don't think it's worth it for that. It has new demons and new angels and stuff that you can recruit too, but I wouldn't, if you've played the game already, I wouldn't buy this version of the game just because of that. Rather, I think you should buy this game if you're a new player. But unfortunately, this dungeon design, it'll really get on your nerves. It's grueling, I'm telling you. So there's a whole bunch of these mazes, but it's like, have you ever heard of the teleporting maze dungeon? Basically, these kinds of mazes, the mazes presented in this game, they're not really the kind of mazes that you can really just stick your left hand on a wall and follow it. Like, these mazes are really weird. These have mazes where you would fall through unmarked random pits, you know, and then you would have to go through another floor and to get back where you weren't from. If you've played SMT4 and SMT4 Apocalypse, you've dealt with this before, but in Deep Strange Journey, and I guess this new game as well, it takes it to another level. Like, can you imagine, like, 7 floors with a whole bunch of teleporting dungeons? Can you imagine, like, really, really nice big maps, but you have a whole bunch of these teleporting mazes? Like, what the hell? I'm gonna show you some images of the maze, like, you know, I'm showing you some images of the maps on GameFAQs. You will have to, I think, you're either going to need pen and paper to draw it, or you're going to have to use maps online to actually get through the later dungeons in the game. Now, it starts off really friendly, really easy. None of this teleporting, falling through floors bullshit. None of that. The first few dungeons, really easy. But the later dungeons, they get hell. Now, one thing I really did not like when I was playing through these games, both of them, the old one and the new one, of course, I've played them both. One thing I hated so bad was how sometimes to progress through the story, you would actually have to, basically in the game, you unlock the ability to see hidden doors. So what you have to do is you mash X randomly against the wall. Sometimes, I guess it's hinted at, but not always. So you mash X against a random wall, and suddenly, boom, like, if there's a hidden door behind it, you know, within one button press of A, you'll unlock that new passageway. But the thing is, to progress the story, you sometimes have to do this. You cannot find regular routes, you know, to get through the dungeon. They'll actually be an asshole. They'll have no solutions in the dungeon unless you actually purposely find one of these hidden entrances, and that always would piss me off so bad. Why would you do that? Yeah, put bonuses behind those hidden passages, but why would you actually end up putting the main boss that you have to fight to progress behind, like, you have to go through the hidden doors? Like, you know what I'm saying? In this game, sometimes you'd have to take out a boss to progress, but sometimes you would have to find these rare artifacts, these rare minerals called fauna, and you need to collect these to progress through the story. And the problem is they're hidden randomly throughout these teleporting bullshit maze dungeons. Okay? So can you imagine that? It's not just you have to get through the level, you have to collect all this bullshit. And yes, many of the fauna in the game are completely optional, and that's fine, that's good. But unfortunately, a lot of this fauna that you have to collect, it's mandatory. Basically what they do is, the dungeons have abbreviations. I'm not spoiling anything, but they start with A, B, C, D. This is how you call each one of the new worlds that you end up exploring. And yeah, in some of these stages, it becomes hell. Like you're literally searching for a needle in a haystack. And I can't believe some of the shit the game would put me through sometimes. Like it's not. Like, this is something I think you would see in like an 80s or 90s game. I wouldn't expect this from a 2010 game, even if it is a Nintendo DS game. These maps were so grueling, so unforgiving. As one of my friends would say, these maps were like designed by Satan. Like, I've never dealt with something like this. I've played the many other SMT games, but man, like, the dungeons will get on your nerves. You'll get, like, sick if you play through too much of this game at once. So if you're a new player considering picking up this re-release, this new redo Strange Journey release, you might want to watch out for these kinds of things. You'll have to eventually, and you should feel no shame in doing so, you'll get to a point quickly where you're gonna have to just look up maps online just to see where you're gonna have to go next. One thing I do like is that the game is nice and lengthy, and the game, if you enjoy long narrative games, this game has cutscenes like a visual novel, so maybe you'll enjoy that. The music, the battle music, even the dungeon musics, they're actually really good. The encounter rate is actually kind of high. Now, I forget if this is a change or not between the new release, but I can say for sure with the new release, they actually have a lot of these new sub-apps where you can actually control the encounter rate. You can increase it or decrease it from a sub-app that you have access to eventually. Not at the beginning of the game, but later on in the game you will get this. So it's not too bad. And I guess the encounter rate is high because you will have to do grinding. This is a very grindy game. If you play Persona and stuff, like it's gonna be like that, even more grindy, even more so. I'm thinking of what else I can tell you. The gameplay, yes, this lives up to SMT standards. The dungeons are hard, but certain bosses in the game, no spoilers of course, certain bosses, yeah, you'll have to try them a few times. Now, the re-release of the game is really nice because you can actually quick save anywhere, so I encourage all new players to just keep quick saving every few minutes, maybe every 10 minutes or so you don't lose too much progress. Sometimes the bosses will be kind of like foreshadowed. They'll say, oh, there's a demon presence beyond this door, so sometimes, but sometimes you'll get encounters where you weren't expecting it, like a mini boss will just pop out of nowhere, so you should always keep saving. And the thing is, with the old game, see, now if you're playing the new version of this game, you will see something called save terminals. And what they'll let you do is they'll let you save and they let you teleport out of the dungeon, but they don't let you teleport back in at that same place. You see what I mean? So a lot of my friends were playing this game and saying, hey, what's the point of only letting you teleport out and not in? Well, the purpose was that originally it's so that you have an emergency exit, and back then that was the only way you could actually save the game. I know, that's tough to believe. And now you can save anywhere. All it takes is a bad critical from an enemy, AoE, area of effect attack, like a critical of that, and that's all it takes. Oh hell, even just on your main character, all it takes is a light, and if you know this if you played Persona, all it takes is like a light attack or a dark attack, and your main character dies, and that's it, until you get the app where your demons will keep fighting even though the main character is unconscious, until you get the app, yeah, you should keep quick saving no matter what. It's an SMT game. You know what to expect if these games can be so unforgiving. I will say one more thing, is that, yeah, late in the game, you really do have to grind like mad. And I will tell you, I only played this game on the neutral path, and I got the neutral original ending, and I got the neutral extended ending, and that's what I did for the original time I played it too. But the thing is, the game gets exponentially more difficult near the end. So you will have to probably spend like 5-10 hours just grinding like mad to get more levels. And yeah, unfortunately, yeah, you can be smart with fusing demons and stuff. The fusing mechanics are kind of archaic and not friendly. You need these. You have to kind of like get affinity with the demons to unlock their crystal, and only then you have to use that one crystal to when you're fusing demons to actually inherit skills. So it's kind of a weird inheriting skill system. It's not like Persona 4 onwards where it's really friendly and you can always pick whatever you want. It's not like that. You have to use these limited resources, and again, you have to grind those if you want to keep fusing demons with the skills that you want. But yeah, this game will get really tough, especially near the end. And what happens is you have to complete one part of an optional dungeon and before you beat the game to get the extended ending. And then with the extended ending, you have another optional dungeon, like a final dungeon that you have to beat. And then you have like a final last boss. And I'm telling you straight that I have to actually like grind to level 99 to beat at least the neutral new boss, the neutral final boss. I had to grind to like 99 and get the best demons. This game is really unforgiving. Be careful. I think that some of the routes might be slightly easier than the other ones. I'm not spoiling any of the bosses, of course. I know I have friends who have taken the other routes, and yeah, sometimes you can kind of be in a pinch. So you should take advantage of the multiple saves that you can do as well. So like save in different slots. But when you actually save in the middle of a dungeon, you can only save in one slot. You know, there's a one slot dedicated for saving on the field. But yeah, like this re-release, I feel like it doesn't really improve upon the original that much. And I know it's a little bit controversial to say, oh, you played the original, you shouldn't play this again. But I mean, I don't feel like it's worth it because of the dungeons. It's so hell. But I mean, there's a new optional dungeon. But the thing is, the new optional dungeon is a pain in the ass. It's the same. More teleporting mazes, more pitfalls everywhere. It's a grind. Like, I don't want to touch Strange Journey again. And the sad thing is that I love the plot. I would have actually, like, both with the original and the new game, I would have played it multiple times. And I would have seen all the routes. But the thing is, I don't want to do some of those dungeons again. Even if you save before the point of no return, like, you get locked into your alignment, like, lawful, chaos, neutral, after a certain point in the story. But the thing is, you still have to do the final dungeon again no matter what, and, you know, I didn't want to do that shit again. I love the game's story. I love the atmosphere. It's creepy. It's like an SMT game. You know, everything just goes to shit eventually. You know how it is. But the thing is that I like the grinding too, but the mazes. And I'm like Zoro. You know Zoro from One Piece? I get lost worse than Zoro does. You tell me to go east, I will go west. I get lost so badly in games. And I'm telling you, so if you're a kind of guy who gets lost easily and has too much pride to go to GameFAQs and look up maps, I'm telling you that these dungeons they give me such a hell of a time. And hell of a time in a bad way. When I say it gets my gears turning, you know, I mean that in a bad way. Not like when a woman touches me. No, I mean this game pisses me off really bad. I mean, maybe if you really like this kind of stuff. See, I like grinding a little bit. I love fusing new demons, new combinations of skills, all of that. I love min-maxing. But I don't love the dungeons. But you know, if what I'm telling you really appeals to you, get this game. But I'm warning you that you don't want this to be your first kind of SMT game you get into. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I got eased into it with Persona, and that wasn't so bad. Like, that's one of the easier, like, SMT games, if you consider Persona, you know, one of the, an SMT game, because some people argue about that. But you know, it's unforgiving. If you haven't played like a traditional dungeon crawler, I don't mean new kinds of dungeon crawlers like Persona. I mean, like, this is like an old school dungeon crawler. And yeah, you need pen and paper. I actually, see, when I was going into the new game, they released a Japanese version of this re-release a few months back. I was not able to find maps. So for the final dungeon, like the new final route, because as I said, the ending gets extended with a very final new dungeon. I couldn't find any maps for it, and it actually has a really wonky puzzle. And yes, I actually had to bring out pen and paper, and that's not something I've done since like really old games. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you know, like, because there was just nothing available. And the final boss, oh my god. You go to GameFAQs and you look up final boss, people will have so much difficulty with that. Now can you imagine with an extended ending with a final boss that's even more super powered, that actually uses everything in its power to like stop you? Like, you know, oh, strong against everything. Ooh, all your like lawful demons, you can't use them. Oh no, now it's all your chaos demons you can't use. Like, what the fuck, man? This game is unforgiving. So I'm telling you, you'll love this game if you love old school stuff, if you're an old school gamer, or if you think that, if you're really ambitious and you think you can handle a grind like this. Like, I'm telling you that I love how creepy the game is. I love the atmosphere. I love near games. I love this kind of stuff. You know, it's just so different. I love those Suda 51 games. You know what I mean? Like the weird kind of games. I love them. I love these, and it's kind of a low-budget game too, in a way. And you have to remember, it's on a portable system, so you can't really go in expecting it to be like a AAA title. It's not. It's like almost like a visual novel with the SMT, you know, battle mechanics. But you know, if you think you like that kind of stuff, you go ahead. And again, if you're a new player, but if you're an old school player, I don't think it's worth it. Like, yeah, there's new characters, new scenes, new interactions, new graphics. About the new graphics, the dungeons, yeah, they're improved, but I mean, I don't know, some people like the old school look of it better. Some people like the old school designs with Kaneko, the character designer. Basically, they had to replicate his character design, so a lot of people don't like the new redesigns. Some of them look a bit cleaner, but you know, it's hit or miss. But I don't think it's that much of a difference. You know, it's not like they're taking it from a portable and putting it onto like a console, a main console. No. You know, they're just improving the quality of life a little bit, making it a little bit easier, and you know, improving some of the graphics in the dungeons, and adding demons and a new dungeon. But I don't personally, I don't think, as someone who has played the original and this one, I don't think it's worth it to get this new game if you've already played the old one. But you know, because you always look up the new cutscenes quickly on YouTube. I don't think it's worth a whole new grind for you just to see the extended ending. It's not really that good. No spoilers, of course. And yeah, that's what I have to say about my thoughts about Deep Strange Journey Redo. If you have any opinions, or if you disagree with me, please go ahead. Feel free to just write about it in the comments. I'm always looking for new feedback. If you enjoyed watching the content in this video, please consider giving it a like. Also, please consider subscribing to our channel so that you can be the first to receive all of our latest videos.